Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Raquel. All right, so officially welcome everybody for the grad student panel, Applying and Succeeding in Graduate School. My name is Dr. Rocio Tonos, and I'm one of the assistant directors at Academic Advancement Programs. Thank you so much again for joining us. We have a fabulous, panel here to share with you their experiences, perspective, and feedback about the process of applying and succeeding in graduate school. All right, here we have also our graduate assistant, Carmel, who will be helping us with the chat. Thank you, Carmel, for joining us. And Raquel, thank you also for being here, collaborating and supporting in the process. All right. As you know, the panel will be recorded. Okay, so this will be used for students who are not able to attend this live event, and you have no obligation to speak or appear on camera. But again, feel free to let us know if you want to participate. We have a set of questions ready for our panelists, and then we'll have a Q&A at some point after that session, so you are all going to be able to ask our fabulous panelists your questions and concerns about graduate school. Okay. All right. So now I will go ahead and go back here because I will actually I can do this now. So Academic Advancement Programs, we prepare students like you, undergraduate students, to pursue graduate school and increase your awareness and knowledge about the graduate school application process. That's why we are planning, a lot of the events, a lot of the activities that you're going to be able to participate this week. And we want you to connect. So at some point, I want you to, let us know how we can support you, but also be aware that we are here to give you advice and to connect with all of you as you're getting ready for graduate school. This is our AEP Familia, our professional staff, graduate and undergraduate staff, and our amazing peer coaches who are here to provide you support and advice in the process. This is, as I said, the first event of our Grad Prep week. So as you know, Academic Advancement Programs is coordinating and hosting multiple events throughout the week, starting today, October 16th, until actually Saturday, October 21st. So you have access to a lot of events like workshops, panel like today's. We're also doing a graduate and professional school fair on Thursday, October 19th at 1 o'clock at the Pegasus Ballroom. So we really want to see you there and for you to connect with our amazing resources this week. And then on Saturday, we'll have a graduate prep intensive that is going to be hosted or facilitated by Dr. Dawn Asher. So we really want you to consider this event and to register today, okay? You can reach out to us for additional information, and you can also find the information here. And that's for the end, so I will go back. All right, so to get started, I will now like our panelists to, I would like our panelists to go ahead and introduce themselves. So we'll get started with Arlette.
All right, well, hi everyone. Grateful to be here. My name is Arlette, and I graduated from UCF with my degree in human communications in fall of 2020. After that, I decided to take a little bit of a break, but also still apply to grad school. So I did my master's in education and student personnel and higher education at the University of Florida. And so I actually just graduated earlier this year in May. And so I've transitioned into my full-time role as a career coach for the College of Business now. But I think what makes my journey a little bit unique is that I'm under the Deferred Action of Childhood Arrival. So I have DACA. So I've kind of navigated the grad school process with that in mind. So it was a little tricky, but I was able to get my entire program funded for. So that was exciting, but yeah.
Thank you so much.
I guess it's my turn.
Yes.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here. My name is Bryan. I'm a PhD student in Brain and Cognitive Sciences at MIT. I graduated UCF a long time ago. Well, 2021, not too long ago. I was a McNair scholar then, and I majored in computer science and almost finished a math degree, and I had a minor in cognitive science, and so very quantitative. That's what MIT likes, and so yeah, what am I doing? So my future, so yeah, as I mentioned, I'm a PhD student. I have no idea what I want to do in the future, and I think that's increased. That uncertainty has increased as I've been doing my PhD, and so there's many options though. The PhD can take you to many places, so I'm excited to figure out where I'll land. But thinking about professorships or perhaps like working in industry. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Bryan. Eileen?
Hi, my name is Eileen. I graduated from UCF in 2021 with my bachelor's in psychology. And I'm currently a graduate student still at UCF in the counselor education program. So I'll be graduating with my master's this December. In terms of future goals, definitely want to get licensed and thinking about doing the PhD program in counselor education later on once I get licensed and then get my a little bit of experience. And also, I just want to apologize. I'm a little bit sick right now, so my voice sounds a little bit off. That's why. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Do not worry about it. Now we have Priscilla.
Hi, everyone. I'm Priscilla. I feel like I recognize some of these names. I used to be a AAP grad advisor here. So I have a very tight relationship with AAP. Love you guys. So for those who don't know me, like I said, I'm Priscilla. I am doing a PhD at Princeton University, PhD in neuroscience, second year grad student. At UCF, I studied biomedical sciences. I double majored in psychology. Just like Bryan, future goals, I don't know where I'm going. And that's completely increased over time as I pursued my PhD. But just like him, professorship is the current goal. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Priscilla, for being here with us. And lastly, we have Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Schreiner, and I graduated UCF in 2021 as well, studying biomedical sciences as well. And I'm currently a third-year PhD student in immunology at the University of Pennsylvania. Future goals, I have no idea, and that's okay. You don't really have to know what you're going to do at all moments of your life. And I'm just kind of going with the flow, just exploring different career paths that PhD has opened up for me. And, I'll just see where I land in a few years.
Thank you so much all for introducing yourself. We're going to go ahead and get started with the pre-made questions. Before I move forward, I would like to let you know that we have already put in the chat the link for the Grad Prep week events, so you can go there and register and stay tuned about all the events that we have planned for the week. And also we have the Grad and Professional School Fair link if you want to register as well. At the end of the panel, before closing, we are going to share with you a QR code and link so you can also complete the attendance survey. For those of you who are here and would like to register your attendance and to complete a survey, letting us know how you feel about this event, your feedback will be appreciated. So that will happen at the end. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the first question we have for you, panelists. And it is, do you always know you wanted to pursue graduate school? Why did you decide to pursue graduate school?
I can take a bite at this one. So I'm going to be honest. I was in my last semester of college, and fall 2020, that was still like COVID time. And I had no idea what I was doing with my life, quite frankly. Like, it took until my graduating semester to know what I wanted to do. And I think a big part of it probably was because COVID, if I have to be honest, because prior until then, I had internships lined up in human resources because what I wanted to do was business. But unfortunately, many of those companies started pooling their programs. And so I started reflecting back on what I enjoyed during my undergraduate experience. And that was working with the orientation team. And so I really enjoyed working with students. And I think because of that, that's where I realized that this was actually a whole master's program that existed to continue to work for university programs. And so I sent one application in, one only, and that was to UF. I probably wouldn't recommend everyone to just put all their choices in just one bucket, but that's kind of what I ended up doing, and it worked out for me, thankfully. But to be quite honest, I think really the main thing to take away from this is that I didn't know what I wanted to do until I graduated, and so I didn't know I was going to.
I think for me, I knew what I wanted to do. It didn't dawn on me that I needed my master's until a little bit later in the game, when I realized that I had to get that experience for the application. So it's kind of like a yes and no. And I guess that's kind of why I decided to pursue graduate school, just because the career choice that I wanted to do required a master's degree. So because of that, I decided to move forward for graduate school.
For me, I'll admit I wanted to go to medical school. I'll say it. I'll say it. But I was in the Learn program here at UCF, and having that research experience, in addition to going to conferences and being around a group of people who care so much about research and knowledge and learning, I was like, it's time for a switch.
Okay, I think mine is a little weird, but ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a musician. Never thought about neuroscience, never thought about computer science at all. But, I grew up in an extremely poor family. And so I think being a musician doesn't really work out. Your family isn't really like, they're happy to support you, but they're not ecstatic that you're picking this life choice. And so my senior year of high school, I decided to pursue computer science. That's kind of what I did throughout undergrad, sort of just thinking I'll just get my master's and bachelor's in computer science, get a degree, make money, and my parents would be happy. But these ideas of music and sort of how music makes people feel, how is it that we can remember, oh my God, 2014, I was driving in the car with my friends and I remember listening to this particular song, like all these really complex sort of like phenomena that are just sort of like part of the human experience. I was always thinking about while also studying computer science. And so I don't know, I think I met somebody in AAP like my third year or something, and they're just like, you could just do research and get at all those things you've been thinking about. And I was like, what? Really? I didn't even know what research was, because again, like nobody in my family has a PhD or like any sort of degree. And so it kind of, one thing led to the next. And I just decided to I was like, maybe I decided not to pigeonhole myself and just, kind of make up my own field, so to speak. And so that's what I'm doing now. I guess that's why I came to grad school. I was just really interested in this like very niche thing.
I'll round us out. My path to grad school, I had no idea what grad school was until maybe like 3 years into school. And I actually started my journey at UCF as a hospitality management major. Because, like Bryan, like no one in my family had gone to college. They immigrated to the United States. And so, attending college for something, that everyone knows for like hotel and theme park industry kind of felt natural. And so then when I ended up switching to biomedical sciences, I was like, all right, what do the scientists do? Scientists go to grad school. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going. So that's how I kind of ended up here, and I don't regret it one bit.
Thank you so much, all of you, for answering that first question. Now, the next question will be, what steps do you take while as an undergraduate student to prepare for graduate school? What are the things that you had to do, considering your particular situations and circumstances?
I guess I can go first. So I transferred to UCF. So I feel like as a transfer student, it was a little bit hard because you're just like thrown in there and you don't realize that you had to like get so much experience with so little time. And so some of the things that I did were to just reach out to like since I wanted to be a therapist, I reached out to therapists asking like about programs and their experience and what they did. I also got connected with AAP. I don't know how. I was just researching. I just was like typing away and just trying to find some resources to help me. And then I also, because the career field that I want to go into is more experiential and more like clinical, I gained that like experience through jobs. So just gaining as much experience as I can with the little time that I had left because of transferring. And then also dealing with COVID, because it was COVID times, and trying to find, experience during those times was very difficult. And also like taking classes that were kind of related to the mental health field. So classes outside of my major, but kind of related to what the classes would look like in the grad school program that I wanted to go into. So I would say a lot of like more like proactive steps to kind of like help me to kind of build that foundation to get me ready for those applications.
I'll have to agree with her as well. When it comes to figuring out whether or not this is right for you, having those experiences really helps. The classes, yes, but for me personally, going into the PhD program, all of my research experiences really was key to me knowing whether or not this is what I wanted to do forever. So I joined the Learn program, and that was one of the main programs that exposed me to that research experience early on. If I don't know if they're still accepting applications at this point. I don't know. Do you guys know?
I don't know if they're open still, but we can
Honestly.
find out. Yeah.
Okay, whichever. But yes, definitely reach out to faculty, apply for summer research programs. Those programs will get you fully funded for housing, sometimes food. Doing that research experience will give you some insight into whether or not that's something you're into.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think one of the most important parts is sort of, as Priscilla mentioned, doing these research programs. Like, so at least like for me, that's so my field is kind of so niche that nobody at UCF was able to sort of support me in doing the types of things I was interested in wanting to do. And so the only way to do research was so it is twofold, right? The only way to actually do research in my field is to go to different schools. So I did 2 summer research programs, one at Carnegie Mellon, one at MIT. And the other aspect of this is like, what was I going to say? Oh man, it was at the top of my head. Oh yeah. So I was applying to neuroscience PhD programs. I knew I wanted to apply to neuroscience, but yet I majored in computer science and math. And so a lot of these programs are like, okay, we gotta at least have to know that you know something about neuroscience to let you in. Like you can't know absolutely nothing. And so I had to sort of look for programs in neuroscience to help facilitate some knowledge, some research in that field, so that I can convince programs that I actually know a thing or two about, like, doing neuroscience research. So it's like, yeah. And also one thing that helped me as well is just getting to know some of the professors I worked with, like actually talking to them about like not only about things that I was interested in, but also like how they got to be where they are now, and also just like getting to know them as people. I mean, I think that helped me a lot in the application process, because my letter writers were people who not only knew the work I was capable of doing and my interests, but they knew me as a person besides like the application process. They knew the things I like to do, how into it I was, and I think that really helped a lot for me.
I'll say this because no one has said it yet, but getting involved in the AAP office definitely was a big help in, getting ready for grad school. Surrounding yourself with like-minded peers helped a ton, right? Because applying to grad school and getting ready for grad school is a very daunting experience, and it could be even worse if you're alone. But the thing is, like at UCF, you're not alone, and the AAP office is a great resource to use when you are at any stage of preparing for grad school, whether at the very beginning or at the very end. Use that resource to really help you get ready. Yeah, that's what I want to say. And I agree with everything that's been said so far, so don't want to reiterate that.
All right, just in case, we put here in the chat the UCF Learn program link. And yes, we just search, and the application deadline was in June 30th, just in case. And thank you, Stephanie, for inviting students to connect with us. It's never too early to begin your grad prep preparation. So please contact us and stay connected and benefit of all the resources we have available. Anything else regarding the question that you would like to add?
I'll add something really quickly that for me, like I said, I came up that I wanted to go to grad school literally my graduating semester. So for me, getting involved was too late. And that's probably one of the biggest regrets that I have, is not becoming involved with AAP or LEAD or any of that. So definitely take advantage of that. I will say that because in my situation, I had to do some like heavy research, and it took me reaching out to the program coordinators of the master's programs that I was interested in. And I honestly think that really helped and went a really long way, because I connected with them prior to me sending an application. They kind of already knew me. And then it also just took like taking advantage of, like, for example, like career services or wherever it is that you have to review your resume to make sure that my experiences that I had up until that point, all the transferable skills that I was able to just apply to whatever my graduate school application was. So definitely take advantage of the resources you have. Don't take them for granted.
Thank you, Arlette. And I guess that we are already, like moving forward to talk about those things that we could have done before, early in the process to better prepare for grad school. That was the next question, actually. So if you guys want to add a little bit more about what do you wish you have, you would have done early to better prepare.
I think something that I wish I would have done earlier, now kind of like in hindsight, was maybe look into more like research opportunities and experience, because I'm just now starting to like dip my toes in research, because it's something that I've realized that it's like I can do it, just seeing the current McNair scholars that I work with, and because now it's part of my goals, I'm like, oh man, it's not as intimidating as I thought it was. So maybe that was something that I would wish that I would have done, just because future me or me right now would have appreciated. And then also maybe just looking for funding options, because I had no idea that there was funding for master's students until towards more into my graduate school career.
To branch off of what she was saying, there is this sort of weird complex where it's either you have a lot of research experiences in all these different labs, or you've stuck to one lab throughout the whole way through. And both are completely fine. I went the first way, where I went to multiple different labs. Well, I didn't have the expertise in just anything. But I have heard of people who were able to do one lab and they were able to get publications out of it and all these different things. Both have different benefits. And I'll say my route, I was able to fine tune which techniques in the lab that I liked, which lab cultures I liked, the kind of faculty or the type of mentor that I needed. But as for that, I think my regret was not sticking to a lab long enough to be able to understand what grad school would look like long-term, in a long-term experience, if that makes sense.
I completely agree with that. I surveyed many labs. I must have been in 6 labs for like a total of like 6 months, maybe. But like, I guess one thing that now that I'm in my third year and I'm currently doing this, I wish I would have done earlier was complete like an undergraduate thesis. This is definitely not a requirement to get in. I mean, I didn't do one. I know tons of people who didn't do undergraduate theses, but it's the idea that you like work on a project and then write about it, like sort of think critically about it, and then like survey the field, what's happening in the field, and then having to write about it. That's just something I didn't do. And now that I'm like, I have to do my qualifying exams in like 2 months, in like 2 weeks, I'm like writing a bunch and I'm like, crap, like if only I had like learned the skill, like at least at some point early. I didn't have to do it. Like I haven't had to do it intensely up to now. And so it's kind of like biting me in the behind. But yeah, it's a, I wish I'd done that earlier.
Anything else? All right. So I guess that a lot of the students sometimes struggle, during the application process. For example, writing their statement of purpose. We actually have I received a question here as a direct message, someone asking about that. Like, I am struggling during my application, writing my statement of purpose. Is there any advice you can offer in that regard? And also, like, we can connect that to our next question. What advice do you have for students regarding the application process? What do you wish you have done or known before?
I can definitely speak on that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
go ahead.
I because I was the peer mentor, I've looked over a lot of different essays while I was at AAP. And one of the things that I really saw students struggle with was thinking like a reviewer. It's not, I don't think the essay should be formed in a way where you're thinking about how the university can help you. It's more about how you can benefit the university in a way. And so instead of saying things like, I would like to take advantage of all of your resources, it's more like using the resources at your university, I can do blank, blank, blank over there. And using your experiences as sort of a proof of what you're able to do there as well. So because I already did it at UCF, I can do it over here. So if you're thinking like a reviewer, you would use your experiences as a strategy of saying, here, I can do it here, and I'd be a great ambassador for your university.
Great stuff, Priscilla. I mean, I would definitely agree. I know that the hardest part about writing a personal statement is getting started. Right, you just open up the Word document and it's blank and it's staring at you and you're staring at it, and it's just really hard to talk about yourself in general and in a way to like sell yourself to a program that you don't know who's there, who's reading it. Um, it's very daunting, especially if you haven't really written like that before. Um, my words of advice to get started is the same that I tell everyone. It's just brain dump everything. Just even bullet points, whichever way works for you, dashes, bullet points, paragraph form, whatever. Doesn't have to be coherent sentences. Just literally anything you can think that may be relevant, even if it's not, you can still include it there. Any experiences, work, research, classes, extracurriculars, literally everything. List what you did, what did you learn from it. I literally just have everything in that document. Then close your laptop, go do something that you enjoy, and then come back at a later time when you're in the right headspace and start to maybe put those bullet points in order, like start grouping them, and then close your laptop and go do something you enjoy, and then come back and just start building your personal statement, because the hardest thing is to like get words on the paper, and by doing bullet points you already have words on a paper. You just got to make it make sense. So that's what I find works for me and for other people when you're struggling to write. Just start with bullet points, start small, doesn't have to be coherent, and then just start stringing it along.
I do want to touch on one thing that Stephanie said. So Stephanie mentioned that it can be daunting to write an application. to people who like you do, like you're sending it to like this institution, you don't know who's there. It's like daunting. I would say one thing that helped me was to get to know the people who are there, like before you even apply. So like I remember I was obsessed with UC Berkeley for no reason in undergrad, like fourth year, fifth year. In undergrad, I was like, I'm gonna go to UC Berkeley. I'm gonna get to know everybody there. They do cool research there. And so one thing I did was like UC Berkeley has like events or something where they have like they like allow you to talk to their grad students, and you can like talk to them, get to know them, get to know the people who are in the labs that you're interested in working in. And like I don't know, I may have sent like hundreds of emails just talking to people at multiple different schools, like getting to know what it's like to actually be a graduate student there. Like what is it really like being a graduate student in that lab in this area? And asking those people to read your application. Like I think I must have had like 40, 50 people read my application. Like some people were scientists, some people were not scientists, some were just like random people off the street. But just having like a bunch of like different perspectives on your like how you write is like I think immensely like invaluable. And so I mean like, and why not ask the people who are in the program that you want to be in to just read it? So that's what I did. I had tons of people read my application.
Going off what Bryan said, I did something similar. I reached out to my program and I asked like the staff, how do I structure this paper? I will say some of them did not, some of them said, sorry, we can't tell you, but there was that one person who did respond back and gave me sound advice. So I would say like, just reach out, you might get some notes, but there should just be that one person who is willing to help. And that helped me a lot in terms of the structure. And of course, there's always AAPs as well. You have resources here. And a lot of the times what I saw in personal statements or statement of purpose is more of the structure. Like the content is there, just wording it. And of course, when you have that support, behind in your corner, it's going to make you feel like, more able to handle that statement of purpose or writing it. It won't be as intimidating, and it's more, you'll be able to tackle it more easier.
I really want to emphasize the like informationals that universities host, because those are so, so, so important. Like genuinely, once you get to talk to people who are going to be your possible cohort, you're basically interviewing people that are going to be your new support system, and you want to make sure that it's a good match to you. Those are so heavily important, honestly. But the other thing is reaching out to people that are in the program that you want to pursue. Like that, I don't think, like when I think about my entire journey, the only reason I only applied to UF was because I contacted the program director of my program there. And I was really, really honest. I was like, this is my first time. I'm the first in my family. I'm literally undocumented. Like, I don't even know if I can pay for this. Like, I was just super honest with him, and he was so like kind, so obviously he didn't tell me, write this in your personal statement so you can get in or anything like that. I just got like, he gave me really good advice. He told me, like, I think it's one of those words that stick with me forever. He's like, no matter what, I'm going to figure this out with you. And that's where I dropped all other applications to all the universities, because of the conversation that I had with him. And so because I knew that I really liked that support system there, the program coordinator, we were able to kind of figure out all the intricacies of like being employed and whatnot. But that's quite literally what landed me there. Just reaching out. He knew me. I got some tips and tricks. I met the other cohort, and I just like knew that was my home, and it worked out, thankfully. So truly reach out to people that are in what you're going to pursue, because that at the end of the day, like your network, that's basically what you're building, and that's that mentorship and that advice is invaluable.
Thank you so much. And Arlette, you mentioned that you are an undocumented student. Do you want to share a little bit more of your experience and how you got prepared, or anything that you would like to, contribute to the conversation about that?
Yeah. And I do also want to acknowledge that, like, I think I'm quote unquote like privileged in the sense that because I have DACA, like that allows me like, the Social Security, the employment authorization. And so I think without that, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am. But it took a lot of reaching out to different support systems. So like, for example, there's a national scholarship for students like me. And so it took reaching out to them. The dream.us, that's what they're known as. And so they hosted a lot of like different, like, how do I get into grad school? How do I get employed? So there's different communities, and I just took advantage of those communities. But I think ultimately, like I said, whenever I reached out to the program coordinator, that's where I basically dumped it all on him. I feel bad for him now that I think about it, but I was really honest with him. I was like, hey, like, this is my situation and I don't know what I'm doing. Up until like now, to this day, I don't think I've like met another student in my same situation. And so I was figuring it out all by myself. And so like, if anyone here like knows anyone that is also trying to pursue that, like, please get in touch with me, because I know that journey can feel very, very like lonesome because of how unique the experience is. But it's just reaching out to those other supportive communities and then asking the questions. I had a whole debacle with HR at UF. Like, it was crazy, but it's just a whole, like, it's just researching genuinely. And then just taking advantage of those communities. It really is just asking questions, because no one really knows until you ask them. And then they're like, oh, I've never done this before. So it is a unique experience, but I'm definitely happy to like answer more specific questions, just because now that I'm reflecting back on it, I have no idea how I did it.
Thank you so much, Arlette. I guess my next question would be, how are you funding your graduate studies or education? How do you plan to fund your doctoral education if that's your plan? Do you apply for fellowships, scholarships? What suggestions do you have for our participants here today who are applying to graduate funding? That's a hard one, I know.
I'm gonna hop in here again. So because I'm able to be employed like anyone else, this goes for anyone. But my graduate assistantship paid everything, like quite literally everything, at UF. And every university is different in terms of how they fund. So it's another one of those questions that you have to be prepared to ask. But because my program, I was able to work a graduate assistantship, which I'm sure the other panelists might talk about the difference between like a graduate, like a research assistant or like a TA. So there's different opportunities, but mine was specifically for a GA, graduate assistantship. And I will say I really do hope to plan to get my PhD in the future. And so my GA was just to fulfill my master's degree. But whenever you work for a university full time, you're able to take advantage of those like employee benefits, which is like a reduced cost of tuition if you continue seeking education. And so my plan is, now that I got my master's funded for, and I'm now working full time, I hope to now take advantage of those university benefits to start funding my PhD or EDD, whatever that may look like in the future. And so just taking advantage of those school resources again.
Yeah, so I didn't know GAs were a thing until later on, like going into my end of my first or second year of grad school. Initially, what I did, I was working full time to help fund my degree, savings, and then I found out what GA shifts were. I actually found out through the grad prep intensive that we'll be having this Saturday. So that really helped a lot, just having the financial support, because grad school can get expensive. So that's kind of like how I'm funding my graduate school education.
Yeah, fortunately enough, my department gets funds from lots of different sources. And so I think through my department, they offer a fellowship. So I was able to fund my first year there. And then when I got into MIT, they offered me this like School of Science internal fellowship. Like the dean like offered this fellowship. So I had another fellowship. And luckily, on top of that, I was fortunate enough to receive the NSF GRFP, which maybe a lot of you have heard of. And so that's what's funding me now. And so luckily, I hadn't had to worry too much about, like, where's the money going to come from? And I mean, like, I think most PhD programs are fully funded. I mean, potentially, like, the funding comes from different sources, like as was mentioned before, like you can do like an RA-ship, or like maybe you have to teach a class and that'll cover you for that semester or whatever. or some schools just offer fellowships, which is kind of like almost like a no strings attached sort of like, here's the money, go do your thing. And so there's a lot of those you can apply to now, or, as you're applying to graduate school, you can apply to a couple. Like I mentioned, the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program is one of them, NSF GRFP. There's also like the Department of Defense does one for computational stuff. And there's also like the Gilliam Fellowship, which is another one I'm applying to because my advisors are insane. And there's a bunch of other ones you can apply to. There's money all over the place. There's the Paul and Daisy Soros one for new Americans. So like if you're first generation or your parents are first generation immigrants to the United States, you can apply for a fellowship to that. So there's many different ways. If you so desire to apply to fellowships, there are a number of fellowships you can apply to, given some constraints, like you may have to be like a citizen or something. But yeah, there's a lot available out there to fund your PhD. It does take some effort to apply to them. They are difficult, but just put your eggs in a bunch of baskets and hopefully you can grab one.
Well, fortunately for me, my PhD program is fully funded all the way. There are a lot of the biomedical sciencey type programs are like that. They are fully funded. Some require you being a TA for a few semesters. Some have different requirements. For mine specifically, I am very fortunate that they do not require me to TA. So yeah, and going in, I didn't really need to apply to any fellowships or anything like going in, but I did, and I also received the NSF GRFP, so I'm currently being funded by that. But I encourage you, even if you are in a fully funded program, I encourage you to apply to these fellowships because they can be very prestigious and very, and like, let's say for whatever reason I wanted to switch institutions, that money's mine, and like I can go wherever I want. So it gives you some flexibility as well.
Anything else? Okay, I guess my last question before we open the floor for participants to ask you questions would be, what challenges have you faced as a graduate student? What advice do you have for others? We know that there are positive things, but also we have some challenges that we have to tackle and to, face throughout the years. What are those challenges for you guys?
I think for me was definitely like the transition between undergraduate and graduate school in terms of, holding yourself accountable, time management, responsibility, taking care of yourself, and things in that sense. And then also, and I'm sure the other panelists might relate to this, but that sense of imposter syndrome too. Every time you go into another semester, you're like, oh my gosh, like, the current semester is like, okay, I got this. And then the next semester, it's like, oh no, it's getting a little bit harder and things like that. So it's always like that feeling of like, wow, I'm really here and things like that. But some things that really helped me along the way was just like my support system, especially my support system at AAP, family, and then just making sure to put myself first as well. Really trying to see like where you can kind of make those sacrifices in terms of, changing jobs, going part-time, really listening to yourself, I think is what helped me with those challenges. And yeah, just kind of in that aspect as well. And just being better with time management. And then also, making sure to put yourself first, and things like that. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
I think for me, it was probably like, there was a certain point during my graduate program where I honestly forgot I even had a family because I was just so like into, just reading that everything else outside was just a blur. And I think now that I'm like done with it, I'm reflecting back and I was like, that's kind of crazy actually. So I think just reminding yourself of your why and keeping in touch with who you are outside of the academic realm. Because at the end of the day, like my favorite thing to say is like, we are all people at the end of the day. So remembering to center yourself and just take care of yourself too.
Yeah, I agree. The PhD can feel, or any graduate program could feel extremely isolating after a certain point. Like you're in So like my first year, I had my cohort, and we're all like friends, and we hang out, and then we got into labs, and then like as we started delving deeper into our own programs, like research programs, it's just like when would I ever see my friends again? They're so busy like behind a bench, or like they have to run these experiments who knows where. And it's like the time that you could spend with other people sort of starts to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And it's like it's pretty isolating actually. And so, and also like isolating in the fact that like you're kind of doing this one thing that's like super novel. And so like you may have tons of questions like, how do I do this? How do I think about that? And you ask people and they're like, I don't know. You kind of have to figure it out. That's your PhD. And it's like, wow, like this, I'm like doing this really hard thing, and there's no one to really like help do this. Like, I mean, your advisors can help guide you. I mean, they're training you as a scientist, not really training you to solve your particular problem. But I guess like my advice for that is like just really try to like find the things that you love to do, and like try to like stick to those things. Like you know, for me, like I have friends who are musicians, and so every week we'll like play together. Like I'm in my music room in my house. I'm fortunate enough to have a music room, so we just have a room where all my friends just come over, we play music. It's fantastic. Or like even small little things like, you know, my friends like, you know, I'm not really that free, but I have like an hour to talk. Let's go grab coffee. And we like go grab coffee and like chat about our lives and like the struggles that we're dealing with. And like a lot of people are in the same boat. So I guess like if you're just open to just like talking to people about your experiences, lots of people talking, and it'll feel a little less isolating, even though they don't really know how to help you particularly. It's like, you know, we're all going through this together in some way. And so it's nice to have that camaraderie. And so just remember to do the things that you love to do. Don't stop doing them because of research. Always prioritize yourself, your mental health, and reach out to people.
Right.
So sorry.
Go ahead, Priscilla.
I'll also say that one of the hardest parts for me was transitioning from UCF to Ivy League. It was, I think the culture is very different, and you oftentimes are the only minority in the room. There'll be times where I'll go to a really fancy lecture and I can't help but notice that I'm the only Black person in the room. Or if there's a conversation, for example, I'm in neuroscience, if they're talking about race, they oftentimes look to me to answer a lot of the questions. Or I don't know. I feel like going into Ivy League, you start to notice that there's less and less and less people that look like you. And so being able to find a university that has resources for you, just like Bryan was saying, a community that you're able to reach out to, or something like McNair at that university, be sure to look for those if that's something that's important for you.
I also want to add just a small tidbit, and this is something that my program always says, but like trusting the process, just really trust the process. It can be a little bit intimidating and, you know, uneasy at first, but I think that, you know, from your graduate preparation and going into your graduate school program, you're exactly where you need to be, and, you know, you've made it this far, so you're doing something right for sure.
For me, in particular, the transition, I know you guys are hearing transition like 5 times now. And you're like, oh my God, how do I prepare for the transition if it's going to be this hard? Well, good news for you is that, you know, you have at least a support system here that'll help you through AAP or through your friends or your family here. And just keeping in touch with like your friends and family, even when you do move, if you move to go to grad school. And then also establishing a support system at your new institution. So as Priscilla said, like it's a big adjustment, and a lot of times you'll be the only minority there if you are, or you know, people the culture is different in grad school in general. And finding your support system, whether that's friends or you know you go to a hobby, do like climbing, like outdoor climbing or indoor climbing or something that is like your hobby, just find some people and start making your community. Doesn't have to start out like super tight knit at first. No one really becomes besties like after one meeting. But you know, being like trying to enjoy your new environment while also trying to get used to it is a big thing. Like go outside. Like I know that it's like, oh my God, I'm so by myself. Like I want to stay inside all the time. I put my butt out there and I was like, I need to find stuff that I like about Philadelphia because I'm gonna be here for the next 5 years. So you know, just being proactive and like trying to make your community and really get used to your surroundings helps a lot, but it will be difficult. But if you know, keep in touch with your support system back at home and start creating your new one, it won't be as bad.
Thank you so much for your responses. We have a few minutes actually for a few questions from the participants. So I know that Najarik, you have your hand raised, and then we'll go with Andre.
Yes, I just want to say first, thank you to the panelists. Your answers have been very helpful. But I do have a more specific question to my personal situation. So I am interested in pursuing neuroscience research in grad school, and I'm also currently a junior. I just joined a lab that I like and where I would be able to lead my own personal project. But I don't think this will take the entire 2 years that I have left. But I do think I'll be able to complete some sort of thesis like we were talking about earlier. So my dilemma comes because there's another lab that I'm also interested in the work they do, but it is very different from what I'm doing currently. But I would still like to explore it before I commit fully to a topic later on. So I'm not sure. I just want to get your inputs on like what would you recommend if you were in my situation. Yeah.
Maybe one of our panelists could respond to that.
So
Yes.
I would say that you should definitely finish the project that you're on. I think that'll be a super worthwhile experience. And so applying to grad school doesn't have to be a thing that you just do right at your senior year, right? Like grad school will be there for maybe the rest of time. And so one thing you can probably consider doing if you feel like you don't have enough experiences is you can apply to like post-baccalaureate programs or like apply for research positions. And so like you mentioned that you have this other lab that you're also interested in. And I think potentially it would be worthwhile to get research experience in that lab just so you can have that skill and sort of round out the experiences you've had. So one thing you could do is like after you graduate or after you're done with the current project that you're in, you can sort of transition into that lab, given that they have the funds to allow you to do so. And so you can like work there for like a year or two, and then you can apply to grad school. That's actually one of the most common things I've seen at least in my graduate program, and like talking to other people in other programs. Like people usually take like a year or two just to do research, and then they apply to graduate programs. And I mean, while you apply to graduate programs, it's not like research tech positions, post-baccalaureate programs, and graduate school are like, mutually exclusive. They're not. Like you can apply to all of them at the same time. And then once you start getting offers, you can sort of weigh your different sort of options and do what's best for you. Maybe the best thing for you is to do research tech, even though you have graduate offers. Like it really just depends on your circumstances. But I would say like try to just really think about your project. I mean, the thesis isn't really necessary, but it's a really good plus. And if you can, just like start getting involved, maybe just go to lab meetings in their lab or something. Like, I think that would be a good idea.
Thank you, Bryan. I know it's 12 o'clock already. I know that we have some, participants with some questions, and we're going to get there. But I would like to share quickly here our attendance survey. So for those of you who will have to jump out the session, here is that slide, so you can scan the QR code, or you can also visit the link that I put in the chat, so you can complete the survey, and you can do that while we wrap up the panel, okay? But we'll continue with the questions, and I know, Andrea, you have a question for the panelists.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Andre. I'll preface this by saying, so I'm also a biomed neuro, so it's nice that we have like, biomed PhD, because I'm thinking about that. I'm also the current president of CogSci Club, which I believe Bryan founded. So I'll be sending you an email to ask us, like to have you present. But no, I basically like. I just want to like really like kind of thank you, all of you. I'm also in a very difficult position now where it's like, okay, well, obviously my parents want me to go to med school because they're doing biomed, but I want to do neuroscience research, but not like biomed neuroscience research, because that kind of sucks. Because now I'm thinking like, okay, now I want to do cogsci research, whatever. So I want to like thank like kind of like both of you and all of you for like being here, because it's also nice to know that like no one knows what they want to do, because I sure as heck do not know what I want to do. So I don't know, essentially just like a big thank you, because I'll probably be hitting both of y'all up, because I really don't know kind of what to do here. But I mean, I don't know. There's no real question here. I'm just like kind of trying to tell y'all that like it's so relatable, y'all. So.
No, thank you, Andrea. And actually, that's why we create these, events at IAP. We want you to stay connected with us, but also to connect with our panelists and resources. So I know that some of them have already put their email in the chat. So feel free to connect with them. They're offering you that, space. And that's exactly one of the purposes of these AAP events. So thank you for sharing that. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not, but Sarthak.
Yeah, hi. So it's Sarthak, but no problem. Actually, I am joining from India. I am looking for a master's program in industrial and organizational psychology. So not a specific question. I don't have currently anything, but one thing, for international students, how does everybody here would recommend anything if you have anything in mind? And second thing, how can we contact you? Like, I would really like it, as everybody told, that getting in contact would be of very much help. So how can we contact you? Any kind of a contact, even anything would work.
I can help answer that question. Honestly, so like what I did, because I knew I wanted to get into student affairs specifically, I would just go on Google and just type in student affairs graduate programs, and then I would just go through the entire list of schools. And usually whenever you find the actual name of your major, there's like a contact form or a point of contact. It's just reaching out to that specific person that is in charge of that program. And I know for international students, like it's the process is like anyone else really, like you still have to send in like your statement of purpose and whatnot. But usually schools have really, really good like they're pretty coherent in how they display their information on the website. So you'll be able to like find that information on there. So they're pretty good at doing that.
Thank you so much. Anything else? If not, we can go to Will Main.
Hello, name is Will Main, or Wilmont Toussaint, and I had a question, but I have like a little side story. Since I'm about to graduate, or between spring and summer, depending on my classes, my goal was to have a year off, but like just working on my personal training certificate. But then at the same time, I had switched over from trying to be a physician assistant to a physical therapy. And I know it's a 3-year program to get your DPT. And I also heard during the little panel conversation to also reach out to the programs and all that. So just trying to see where do I start from there, if it's possible. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so okay, let me think. So I think one thing you could definitely do is just like, so do you have like an idea of like what schools have those programs that you're interested in? Like, I guess that could be the first step, right? Like if you don't, like just like try to have like a list of these schools that you particularly be interested in, like develop like a criteria for a school. Like for instance, maybe you don't want to live in the Midwest, for instance. So don't look up schools in the Midwest, look up schools in the West Coast and East Coast. And then from there, it's like, where would I want to live? Or like whatever you feel comfortable, like wherever you would want to live or whatever you want to do, like whatever criteria you set, just look for schools that sort of fit that criteria. And then like once you have like this list of programs that potentially have this list of schools that have the program you're interested in, I would sort of like try to like find out who the coordinators are for those different programs, just email them and tell them about like yourself and get to know them, ask them like if they can like point you to different people who are in those programs, just to like help you get more specific information from people who are actually in those programs. And you said you wanted to sort of take like a year off between like graduating and also applying, right? Like
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not really too familiar with that program and like the requirements that you need in order to like be a good applicant, I guess you can call it. But that's one thing you can definitely ask people once you like find the schools that you want to, or find the people that could help you best. Like just ask them what are some things you can do in order to like maximize, like gain the experiences that you need in order to maximize like you getting into that program. Like it's probably not a research degree, so maybe research isn't really necessary, but maybe you need experience in like a clinic or something in order to like really maximize like your ability to like, get into those programs. So I'll just try to look into one, like what schools offer it, and like what are like, just like the general things that people do in order to get into those programs. I think that would help, and maybe try to do those things in like your year off or so, or like even starting now. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly add that something I know that more people should take advantage of for sure is if you have a LinkedIn and you type in University of Central Florida and you click on that alumni, literally just type in like what is it? I think you were trying to do physical therapy, right? I believe so.
Yes. Yeah.
So usually students have like physical, if you just type in physical therapy in there, you will find like everyone that lists that on their LinkedIn page. And I find that that is really helpful when you get to hear from students are already in their program, so they can give you the inside scoop of whatever research that is that they've already done before. And if you just like start like cold like emailing, messaging them and just saying like, I would love to know what your experience is, I'm sure one of them is going to buy you, especially since you all have that that similarity of being from UCF as well. So that's just another thing that you could start looking into.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's 10 past, and I want to be respectful of, your time, but thank you again for all the participants for joining us this morning at this first event of the AAP Graduate School week, Grad Prep week. Thank you again. This is our final, minute. So anything else that we quickly want to share with our participants before we conclude the panel? Final advice or final words?
Our emails are in the chat box.
Yep, there we go. We have the email. Stay connected, stay tuned with AAP. And there you have the link also for our week's event. So stay connected. Thank you so much for joining us. And we ask the panelists to please stay with us for one more minute. If possible, we would like to take a photo of all of you, our panelists. And for participants, thank you again for coming. We wish you have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and we hope to see you around this week for the Grad Prep Week events.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.